to have studied sciences in grade 11. This test is not a test of science. This is a test of data comprehension that is set in an environment of science. So whereas it is important for you to know the basic science terms and principles, the test would rarely test you for science principles, right? Okay, that's it. Let's take a look at what does this test look like. So another challenge, that this is out of the 4 areas, this is the last section on the ACT. And ACT, which happens to be a speed-based, a pressure-based test, most of you have worn out quite a bit by the time you reach this particular section. So which is one of the primary challenges on this test is to retain your stamina right until the time you reach the science section. You have 40 questions here. And you get 35 minutes to solve those 40 questions, which means speed is an extremely important consideration. Most of you, as you take the science test on day 1, would run out of time before you were able to finish this test. So we have to be extremely cautious about how we choose to manage our time. We'll talk about that as well in the next session, which is immediately after this one. So 40 questions to be done in 35 minutes. And these 40 questions are usually divided in 6 to 7 passages. And you could have 5 to 8 questions per passage, right? About 3-4 years ago, they used to be divided in 7 passages. Of late, the trend is that you get only 6 passages in the science section. What do these 6 passages look like? So usually 2 to 3 of them are going to be data representation. These are the simpler ones. So you simply have a large piece of data, a large body of data, and there are a certain number of questions that tell you to fish out the relevant information. So they don't represent too much of a challenge. Some 2 to 3 are research summaries. So these are some actual researches taken from somewhere. So all these researches have some research design. So there's usually some text here, and then you have some data. Normally the difference between a data representation passage and a research summary is the amount of text which is present on the passage. On a data representation, you can safely assume that 80% of the real estate of the passage would be occupied by data. On a research summary, you would have data and text in equal proportion, making these passages slightly harder than the data representation ones. And you have exactly one passage which is on conflicting viewpoints. This one does not have any data on it. It is pure text and only text, right? So there is no data on this particular what you call as passage type. So that is what makes it the hardest. And this is something we're going to take a look at in the next session today. That will be dedicated exclusively to conflicting viewpoints passages. So as of now, we'll be focusing on data representations and research summaries, which a lot of people, differentiate for the sake of differentiation. But in my opinion, there is no need to differentiate this. Your approach has to be pretty much the same for both these. So then what we'll do, we'll probably further narrow down our classification to 2 types of passages. So one we say is conflicting viewpoints, which are the harder ones. And then there is everything else, which has to be treated absolutely alike. All right. Now, coming down further on the ACT science, and let me rub this off. Let's see where the challenge is. So I'm saying 35 minutes and maybe about 7 passages. So if I divide 35 by 7, I get a simple number of 5. So we say for each passage, the approximate time available to you is 5 minutes. That's too little. That's too little. 5 minutes per passage means that if I spend something like 2 to 2.5 minutes reading a passage, which is absolutely, the minimum time required to read a passage and comprehend it, then the total time available for me to solve something like maybe 5 to 7 questions is just about 2.5 minutes, which is too little, and which is going to create an obvious time pressure. What is the way out? How do I do it? Okay, I tell you. The way out is do not read the passage. Whereas this may sound completely cranky. It may sound, nonsense. But then that's the only way. That's the only way, you go about doing it. Do not read the passage ever. If you read the passage, it is not get you anywhere. Also, when we talk about these passages, a typical passage would have a huge amount of data spread over it. And 90% of this data would never be used in answering the questions. If you ask me honestly as a tutor, if I can tell you, the real challenge on the ACT science is not speed. Whereas you ask 100 students, 99% of them would tell you it is speed. The real challenge on the ACT science section is IOL, or information overload. The aggregate amount of information available on these passages is simply too much for an ordinary human brain to process. What is the way out? Be selective. Read only as much as you need and no more. A lot of you would still be confused. Oh, how do I teach to my answers? How do I find out? How, if I'm not going to understand the passage, how am I going to answer the questions? This sounds absolutely crazy, but that's the way about it. We'll discuss how do we do it. The idea is to avoid this information overload at all costs. And the key lies in being selective, about what data do I choose to read. So I'm saying we'll only use that kind of data that we need to answer questions, carefully avoiding all remaining data, knowing fully well that this is only going to add to our confusion. Now, first lesson and last lesson and the most important ACT lesson on science, locators. On each of these questions, you'll find small subtle hints that will tell you where the answers could be located, right? So I would not say that all these questions would have these locators, but let me say about 80% of these questions have locators. What are these locators? According to figure 1, if my question says according to figure 1, rest assured the answer would be found on figure 1 and nowhere else. Then you don't have to look left, don't have to look right, just go to figure 1 and look for your answer over there. If it says according to study 2, I need to just look at study 2 and nowhere else. At times it will tell you according to figures 1 and 2. What does this mean? It means none of the figures alone is going to give you the answer. You must look at both the figures parallelly, and then based on these figures, you should try to do some interplay of data and only then figure out what your answer is. So if my primary locator said based on figures 1 and 2, and you go to figure 1 and you're able to calculate the answer only on figure 1. Third important thing here is that of the 40 questions on the ACT science, there would be a maximum of 1 here that would tend to use your outside knowledge of science. And this would be stuff as simple as what is the pH of neutral water? What is the boiling point of water? What is the difference between mitosis and meiosis? What are ribosomes? Simple, absolute simple stuff which you cannot really miss out on. You just cannot miss out on that. So please be very clear, you're not being tested for science here. Do not try to apply science principles unnecessarily. Look at some very simple techniques, right? So this is one. Second, this is not a test of math. and you're not permitted to use a calculator on this section. Never try to calculate things. The only language that we understand is this is higher than, this is lower than, this is increasing or decreasing or staying constant. Beyond that, you'll never be required to calculate percentage changes here. That's for sure. Right? So trends are more important, which you have to very quickly visually identify. Right? Third, when you're preparing for the ACT in general, make sure that you catch hold of a good practicing platform. So the ACT testing platform that we have, it simulates the actual ACT software. And I mean, it has taken us over 2 years of very hard work now to put this together, and is, as of now, the industry defining testing platform, which actually simulates in terms of look, feel, the ACT this thing. Right, so I think with this backdrop, we can directly go into questions. I would want to spend longer amount of time. So we'll take a look at these types of passages. What are like data representations? What are research summaries? How do we go about approaching them? How do we look at, sorry, locators? And how do we use this concept to solve problems? This is not going to be a very long session today, so you'll have greater time for question and answers. Okay, all set to go. So let me share my screen with you. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so this is what the front face of your ACT science paper looks like. You can go through the instructions over here, and then I press the next button, so that takes me to this introductory speed, and now you know screen. Now the timer here would start ticking, right? There are certain tools here that you can use, highlighter, line reader. My advice, do not use these tools. You can use this to zoom in and zoom out your text. Okay, what is this? This is a simple passage on data representation. So there's a set of data here. Okay. And let's go through the question. To determine whether doubling the NaCl concentration in growth medium doubles the ACT of bacteria. Can I pick out some keywords? This is NaCl concentration and ACT. Which two should be compared? Go option wise, trials 2 and 3. So between trial 2 and trial 3, is the NaCl concentration being doubled? No, you would rather cross it out. Trial 2 and trial 5 is doubling NaCl concentration, but ACT is not getting doubled. Trial 4 and trial 6. 4 and 6 have the same, so this is also ruled out. And trial 7 and trial 8 also have the same. So I come around to what? Trial 2 and trial 5, where I figure out that when you double the NaCl concentration, the ACT is not doubling. So the answer to this would be no, but I would be able to answer this question. And I'm going to take what? The second option. Is that difficult? I don't think so. Longer question. How did increasing the pH, and please know that at any point in time, I have not read any of this. I'm not going to until and unless the question forces me to do that. How did increasing the pH of the growth medium from 6 to 7 after the ACT, when bacteria X cells were incubated at 42 degrees Celsius? So bacteria cells, just pick out these keywords. On a growth medium having a concentration of 5 grams per liter. So 42 degrees Celsius, I'm talking about this. 5 grams per liter is 5 grams per liter. This is what he's talking about, increasing pH from 6 to 7. So I know what this has happened. ACT has gone up. Increased the ACD for, I'm not looking at, my answer will have to have trials 3 and trials 9. Which answer has trial 3 and trial 9? This is ruled out and this is ruled out. And ACD for trial 9 is 1 and not 0.8. So this is also ruled out. That's your answer. I hope you're able to follow the approach which I'm taking out here. Have I understood the passage? No, I have not. Have I read through the passage? No, I have not. I'm just doing some smart data play here, eliminating stuff. Which of the growth conditions were varied among trials 10 to 12, which means what is changing from 10 to 12? 10 to 12, this remains same, this remains same. So the only thing which is changing is temperature. This one is simple, right? Okay. So I'll just move on, in fact, and give you, let's do this also. The scientists predicted that ACD for bacteria X colonies would be greatest when bacteria were incubated at a temperature of 37 degrees, pH 7, NaCl 5 gram. 37 degrees, pH 7, NaCl 5 gram. This is what I'm talking about. This figure is 1.5. Are the results in the table consistent with this prediction? When I run through this, I can see there is a 2.1 out here. So my answer has to be no. And this is the answer. ACT was greatest in trial 11. That is what you mark. Is that simple? I think so. Growth medium tested in trial 4 and trial 10 differed in which of the following ways? Very quickly, trial 4 and trial 10. Can I see temperature is same? pH is different and NaCl concentration is all the same. And when pH is different, pH is 6, out here it is 7. So trial 4 is more acidic. So this can be. Trial is 10 is not more acidic. NaCl concentration is the same. So that quickly gets me down to the answer as 5A. Are we getting down to it? Now, one important observation here. Each of the passages would have 5 to 7 questions, right? The first 5 to 6 questions would usually be easy, and the last 1 or 2 questions would normally be hard. So what should I do? As I approach the end of the passage, I should slow down my reading speed. Okay, there was no difficult question. This passage has changed. 5 questions only, the first passage, normally the simple one. This is another, data representation question. This should be a simple one. You see, go with just what he says. According to combinations 5 to 8, 5 to 8, as T increases, what is happening to F? F is decreasing only. So simple question. Let me move on to a more complicated question now. And I've tried to cover up at least one of each type in this session. This is the same one. Yeah. This is also not a research summary. Let me look out for a research summary. Yeah, this is a good one. Can you see the total amount of data here is more? You've got study 1, study 2. So this is a typical question on research summary. It's going to be trickier than the data representation ones. And let's see how do we go about it. This is my locator. According to results of study 2. So where do I go? I go to results of study 2. Right? There was no calcite found at which of the following depths? Out here I have calcite, the solid lines, and at a depth of 5 centimeter and a depth of 7 centimeter, I see it reduces to 0. So that will going to be 5 centimeter. Simple. Compare this to someone who would be reading this entire passage first and wasting a lot of time there. Still, trust me, this is how the question would be solved. But please be careful. On the research summaries, at times there might be a question that may force you to read the passage. But read the passage only if you're forced to do it, not otherwise. Even if half of the times you can escape without reading the passage, nothing like it. You'll end up saving a lot of time. Now, this is a nice, interesting question. The correct approach to solve this is process by parts. Whenever you have an answer which is in two parts, never calculate both of them together. Calculate one of them, rule out two options, and then move on to the other one. Let's read. Suppose that in study 1. So quickly, what do? I move on to study 1. Okay, there I am. At the same location, samples of the ocean floor sediment from 20 to 20.5 centimeter below ocean surface had been collected and combined. The pore water extracted from those combined samples would most likely have an average SO4 concentration and average CH4 concentration. Which of the following? 20 to 20.5. This is SO4. I know this at 20 becomes 0. So at 20.5 also it will be 0. So I rule out two options. Coming down to CH4, CH4 is about 65. So that cannot be 0. That's my answer. Could we look at the approach that we use to solve this? Is that simple? Okay. Let's move on to the next one now. The statement, some SO4 was found in pore water from each depth in interval in the core, supported by figure 2. So let's go to figure 2. Do I need to take a look at figure 1? No, this is figure 2. Some SO4 was found in pore water from each depth. Can I see that the SO2 reduces to 0? Okay. Now, this is another question where I can teach you something. This question is what I typically call as a head and tail question. Right? So each of the answer options here will have a head, which in this case is a yes or no. And then it has a tail, which is kind of, explanation to this yes or no, the reasoning. Common sense tells me what? Common sense tells me I should first of all identify the answer to the head, and then I should look at a reasoning. For example, how I would be solving this question is, after having read the question, I would go to the figures, and then I would say, some SO4 was always found. I can see there is no SO4 found. So I would say my answer is no. Right? Because figure 2 indicates that average SO4 concentration was 0 at depths of 4 centimeter or greater. Concentration was greater than 0, so this is incorrect. The correct answer is going to be C. This is one of the approaches towards solving this problem. I'll give you a much better approach. Such questions, and this will serve out to be a phenomenal time saver for you. Such questions should be solved tail first always. Again, this may sound completely nonsense, but it works beautifully. So what I do is, rather than at the yes, I start reading here. Figure 2 indicates that average SO4 concentration was 0 at depths 4 centimeter or greater. There's a misprint there in the spelling. So this statement is true. And you can actually, use a tool here if you wish to. There is something called as an answer eliminator. I don't really recommend using it. So option B was greater than 0 at all depths is incorrect. This is also incorrect. So now I know whatever my answer be, it has to say that SO4 concentration was 0 at depths 4 centimeter or greater. And when the SO4 concentration was 0 at depths 4 centimeter or greater, it means I cannot agree with the statement that some SO4 was always found. That means what? That means my answer has to be C. Okay. Move on. Let me just take a couple more questions and then I take on your questions. According to results of study 2, what do we do, guys? The top 20 centimeter of the sediment, how did the average percent by mass of calcite compare to average percent by mass of argonite? So can I see argonite lies to the right of calcite? So calcite is less than argonite? That's your answer. Very simple. Less at each depth. Why should I read this entire passage above and understand the study as to what the hell they're trying to do? Okay. Moving on. Consider the average percent by mass of argonite at a depth of 10 centimeters shown in figure 3. Okay, there is figure 3. Depth of 10 centimeters. So let me come here. On average, what mass in grams of argonite is present in 50 gram sample sediment taken from that depth is closest to which of the following? We have taken a 50 gram sample at a depth of 10 centimeter and I'm talking about argonite. Can you see argonite is about what? Argonite is about 10%. So you calculate 10% of 50, which is 5 grams. Is that difficult? So what skills you need here, guys, is the mistake that you can make, is to read the question hurriedly. You'll be duped. Please be very clear as to what is it that you want to do, what is it that you do not want to do. Read your questions slowly. Even if you're not reading the passage, even if you read the question in the slowest possible fashion, you'll never run out of time. Fair? So I think that's what I had to teach. Yes, lots of practice would help you. And when you practice with authentic ACT papers only. Do not practice with mock papers that you've picked up from private publishers. They would be far off from what the actual test is going to be.
Okay, that was a great session, sir. Got to learn about what are the do's and don'ts for this particular section. How exactly the time saving skill can be developed and what are the things to be done for the same. I would like you to take you through the few questions.
Yeah, sure.
How to approach the graphical based questions because they look like confusing and how to select the correct answer.
I've just discussed this with them. Do not read the passage. Start with the question, look at the locators, go to the data and then work out your answer.
Like any specific book recommendation for this section?
Use Michael Serro, For the Love of ACT Science. Okay. There's a book called For the Love of ACT Science by Michael Serro. Use that one. That is the best book. And then a lot of practice is what would get you there.
Okay. That's, I guess, so there are, I just check out in case any other question.
US colleges, fee waivers for applying to use this is to be discussed in some other section. This is irrelevant here. Yeah. All right. Thank you, guys. That's it from me. See you again at 6 o'clock with another session on ACT Science, which is going to be a smaller one, but we'll take up a more tricky thing.
Okay. That was really a great session, sir.
Come to the next session. I'll give you the name of the book in type. Michael Serro, For the Love of ACT Science.
Okay. I hope students have noted it. I'll just type it in this next session. Okay. Sir, so there is one more question for related to the same section. How to solve questions ranging from 35 to 40 because they are quite tough.
No, it's not like that.
Okay.
Out here on each passage, the last 1 or 2 questions are going to be tough.
Okay.
All right.
I guess all the queries have been resolved. So thanks once again for this section. And
thank you, Harshal. We meet again at 6 o'clock.
Yeah, see you everyone at 6.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.